We are live with week 32 of What Did Prince Do This Week? And I am elated that we are part of the Come 30 virtual celebration. Do this. I haven't showed this today, one of my prized possessions. Do this. But we are celebrating both 1994 and 1984 in the same year. And that's where we are with What Did Prince Do This Week, 1984. We do this every week, for those of you who don't know, on YouTube and Facebook normally, but we have a special session for this virtual symposium only. So if you haven't checked us out, you can either subscribe. Let me get there. Actually, let me get there first. So we're going week to week, not day to day, in Duane's amazing book, Prince in the Purple Rain Era Studio Sessions, 1983-1984. We started reading this book every week last year in 1983. This is where we are, and this is how much we got left for the rest of the year. And when we're done reading this book, and the whole reason why I'm reading 83, 84 is so we can get to this book. So this is going to be the next 2 years. So you still have time to join us. And all of them are archived at Polished Solid. And some of them are also, a lot of them are also archived at M. Dean, which is Michael Dean's YouTube channel. You can follow the detailed schedule at /Prince Book Club. And that's the QR code. All right.
Can I admit to my general ignorance?
Yes.
It took me over a year to realize that I didn't have to be confused by the page number, because all I had to do is look at the damn date and month. So like today, August 10th. So I was like, what the hell page? I'm like, oh, we're going week to week. Dumbass, just look at the day and month. So it took me over a year and a half to realize, stop being foolish about what page and just go to the day. It took me a year and a half. I will admit that. All right, so that's it.
That's all right, brother. That's all right.
Yes. But the reason why I say date to date is that the dates obviously don't align. Like today is August the 10th. It's, August the 10th in 1984. It's not the same day as August the 10th in 2024. So that's the reason why. Yep. And then you do not need the expanded edition, which is where you have like the blue title, but that's what the schedule is based on if you look at it. And then we already talked about this, but I would really love it if you would subscribe, like, and help spread the word, because we committed. We cutting, as they say. And yeah, we have the hashtag WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week? And the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This Week book club series, nor has it endorsed it. It reminds me that I actually forgot to say that about the whole symposium. The whole symposium is an independent endeavor. It's not affiliated with the estate, because I said this in the welcome. And Michael, I don't know if you know this, but you probably do, because you're always up on things on the know. But the estate is doing an official come listening party at Paisley Park next week, which I thought was incredible. So I'm really happy that they're supporting Come, because obviously it's one of my favorite albums, or I wouldn't be doing all this.
You know what it was? They saw the symposium. They saw all the symposium. So wait a minute. We don't have nothing. Do a listening party. That's with love inspiration. You know what I'm saying?
Streets are talking. Streets are talking.
They see the fans in the streets is active. Yeah,
streets have spoken.
Yeah,
the streets have spoken. That I know what Huey Newton say. Okay, all power to the people. All power to the people. Hey, Purple Kingdom. Hey, man, if we get unified and make some noise, they gotta hear us.
Yeah.
Somebody said in the chat, they saw the fan base saying, "Don't we keep the heat on?"
That is hilarious.
Oh man!
All right.
What's the matter with everyone around here?
Okay. While you were talking, you guys tell me if this sounds better. Okay, it's going to be low at first. It's like crickets chirping, water rushing. Is the audio better or no?
Barely hear it on my end, but it may
Yeah,
sound
I'm about the same. It's kind of about the same.
Okay. And it's still choppy.
Right.
Yeah.
Still choppy.
All right. Let me try that. Let's see if it changes. I just changed the setting. I'm trying to get this music right. Gotta get it right. Okay. So we were trying to play Isla Mujeres from Things Left Unsaid because we always play Eric Lee's for the most part on What Did Prince Do This Week.
Hey, you want some Eric Lee's? I'll play some Eric Lee's.
Yeah, play some Eric Lee's.
I don't know where it's gonna come in. Can you hear that?
No.
No. Never mind. Continue.
To get the full musical experience, you're gonna have to come on our regular What Did Prince Do This Week. It's okay. We are happy to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here. Okay. We talked about this last week on What Did Prince Do This Week, but I just want everybody to know, I think this is really, really important that Prince finally got inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. This is something that I've wanted for a very, 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 very long time. And it finally happened on the 40th anniversary of the theatrical release of Purple Rain. So that's really fitting that it happened. And Liegh made sure that it was legit and it's actually posted on the Songwriters Hall of Fame website. So if you didn't know it, now you do. So I'm so thrilled. All right.
And let them know that we had a really good conversation about that last week, because I really think what you said and Brother Dean said and Brother Hoskins said, I mean, we've really covered a whole lot of stuff around Prince being in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. So if you guys haven't checked out that episode of What Did Prince Do This Week, aka Why Do People Dance So Weird, check out that discussion because we covered a lot of ground in that episode. I'll shut up.
Yes. Thank you for that, Liegh. All right. So let's get into week 32 of What Did Prince Do This Week? What we know. Thanks, Anil, because obviously we don't know everything. Week 32, episode number 83. This week in 1984, Prince wrote 3 new songs and had 3 studio visits total. And I think this was actually a pretty amazing week for music. So what you're going to see is River Runs Dry, basic tracking. Lisa, basic tracking, which becomes Yes on the Family. And then there was a slew of 12-inch mixes, including Sex Shooter, Bella St. Mark, Jungle Love, Let's Go Crazy, Happy Birthday, Mr. Christian, and America. Then you have the Computer Blue Jam workout rehearsal this week. And you have an edit of Purple Rain, and you had Misunderstood basic tracking. I also have next week, for those of you who might consider joining us next week, because next week, as actually I was thinking about next week instead of this week, next week is on fire. First of all, on Tuesday, Prince and the Revolution, they do a live performance at First Avenue. Then he writes She's Always in My Hair. Then on Wednesday, then he writes Around the World in a Day on Thursday. Then he writes The Dance Electric on Friday. Then he writes Screams of Passion on Saturday. That is a week on fire. Fire, 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 fire. Now, we're not going to be talking about this week today. So if you want to hear our conversation, you're going to have to join us on YouTube or Facebook next Saturday. But I just wanted you guys to get a preview for those of you who don't join us on the weekly. All right. So we're going to get started with River Runs Dry and Lisa. And who wants to start off with our reading for the week? Not all at once. It's so many.
What page
let me get to the page.
We are on page 375 in the expanded edition.
375.
375.
River Runs Dry, basic tracking.
Yes.
Oh, you got it?
Lisa, who want to do it?
See, Liegh.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So Lisa working title, yes, basic tracking. Flying Cloud, the Flying Cloud Drive, Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, producer Prince, artist, the family, engineer, Susan Rogers. Ding! That's the album telling you to turn the page. Quote from Bobby Z, he was always open to songwriters and songs, but they had to be good. That's the Bobby Z quote.
Okay, so skip to the next paragraph and start reading when it came to filling.
Okay. When it came to filling in the family album, he spoke to his drummer, Bobby Z, about a song that he had recorded in late 1983 called River Runs Dry. His original demo had Gary Newman flavor. That's Cars right here in my Cars, right? Gary Newman, Cars. Anyway, I may have him wrong. Which continued into the new version, slightly tempered by Prince. Bobby Z played drums, Fink played keyboards and on the demo, and Prince played the remaining instruments in this early mix. The song continues the bass keyboard leads from Bobby Z's demo. No saxophone would be recorded for this version of the track. Prince also recorded Lisa, an instrumental that shared the title of one of his unreleased tracks from 1980. Lisa, come to the party, Lisa. Anyway, let's move on. I don't know. Once he finished recording the basic rhythm tracks during today's session, it was placed on the shelf until early October when Wendy Melvin would add guitar and Eric Liegh would overdub sax. The track would be renamed Yes. Quote, Prince was very, very good at being able to tap into specific things that individually could contribute, end quote, explain Liegh. Liegh continued, quote, he knew not to come to me to play on certain kinds of songs because he knew that just wasn't my thing. If there was some specific thing that he wanted, I would come in and do that. And he knew he could get that well done. But he knew basically the kind of songs that I was going to want to sink my teeth into, end quote. It was also possible that Jerk Out, which was originally intended for the time, was taken off the vault and considered for the family. I wonder if he had changed the original lyrics by then, but I digress. During this period, Prince reportedly considered I Don't Want to Stop and Rough, also known as Too Rough and Too Rough, for either the family or Maserati products. It seems these were only reviewed and not actually updated for either groups. Rough was an old track that we brought out of the vault, according to Susan Rogers. I remember it was just one of those macho funk things, something that he didn't spend that much time on, I guess. It wasn't one of his better ideas. Status. Bobby Z's demo of River Run Dry remains unreleased. Eventually, Paul Peterson and Susanna Melvin added their vocals to the version at 5 minutes and 8 seconds that was worked on during the session, but most of it would also be shared once Prince decided to re-record the music later in the fall. The updated version of the track was placed on the family's only album. The longer version of Lisa / Yes, 6 minutes 48 seconds, remained unreleased, but it was eventually edited to 4 minutes 25 seconds and included on the family's album. Another shorter edit, 3 minutes and 22 seconds, was created, probably for release on a single or B-side, but that also remains unreleased. Rough has been recorded by Prince at least twice, 5 minutes and 34 seconds and 6 minutes and 7 seconds, and would be offered to Joyce Kennedy as well as Jill Jones, who would record lead vocals on the track in 1986, but it remains unreleased. I Don't Want to Stop has also been recorded multiple times by Prince, as well as re-recorded without Prince's studio participation and released by Ren Woods on her As Is album. Prince withdrew the song, so it was subsequently removed from later pressings. Prince's version, 4 minutes and 14 seconds and 5 minutes 46 seconds, has not been released. That is it.
All right. Wow.
All right.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, a couple of things just to throw. What do you guys think is as Susan called it, macho funk? I'm just kind of curious what she meant by that, macho funk, as opposed to just funk.
You know what? When I hear that, I hear like anything that's like very heavy and bass driven. My father, you guys may not, some of you may know a group called War. I don't know if you guys remember 70 groups called War. And my father said that his female friends would always complain whenever they would be playing War, y'all playing that man music, y'all playing that macho music. So, so I think that a lot of times when people say that macho, anything that's going to be very heavily bass and drums without any strings on it, without any kind of soft keyboard notes, that's going to be considered. And anything and it's also is very driving, very syncopated, got like grunt to it. I think that's what she probably meant by that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just gonna say just something that's probably just that's real aggressive. Sounding like Liegh said, it's got that grunt, that drive to it. Probably not as soothing as like, a Fender Rhodes in the song, or like, some type of dreamy keyboard sounds or something to kind of give it some lightness to it.
Mm. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
So a couple things. I see this wonderful comment in the chat from Daryl Merlet, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Trying to follow along in my book, just realized I have the non-expanded edition off to Amazon I go. So yes, if you want to keep up with us with the expanded edition, you got to get it, because there's a lot of, a lot of changes, but there's some pretty significant changes between the original version and the expanded version. And the thing that I want to talk about from this is, can you imagine Jerk Out being recorded by the family? Like, can you hear like Paul Peterson doing Jerk Out? I so associate that song with Morris Day that it's nearly impossible to think about anybody else recording that. But Michael, you have a twinkle in your eye. Does that mean that you can imagine someone else recording it?
Well, I guess I could imagine hearing St. Paul do it. I don't, I think it's one of those things. Who I would have heard it from first is who my mind would have probably latched onto. Now, if I would have heard it, St. Paul doing it came out, I probably wouldn't think anything about it. And then, if I would have heard a Morris version later, I'd be like, wow, okay. So I guess I could see it.
Yeah.
Like I could see a Morris version of Mutiny, but I still think that that's a St. Paul type of.
My only question is, how soon, at what point had he removed the original lyrics from Jerk Out? Like, if it was being considered for the family, had he already removed those lyrics? Just considering the fact that St. Paul was white, right? You couldn't see him singing those lyrics. So I would really be interested to know when did those. And for those of you, if you've never read the original lyrics to Jerk Out, you can kind of find them online. There have been a couple of things, but I think those are some really interesting lyrics. And then thinking about how Prince, that also gets us to when Prince changes songs or gives songs to different people, how he often changes either lyrics or grooves. And I think that's a point that we don't discuss enough about Prince thinking specifically about how certain people will interpret his songs, right? And I do, because I'm one of those people that I will admit, and I know this sounds crazy, I respect Prince as a producer, but I don't think I give him his flowers enough at being a producer. But I think thinking about those lyrics for Jerk Out, because I remember I talked about the Nelson George. Remember Nelson George said that the one negative about Prince is Prince wasn't really a good producer at bringing out other people's talents, that when you got produced by Prince, what you got was a Prince production, and that people sounded more like Prince than themselves. And I would say that looking at these Jerk Out lyrics and other things, I would say we probably need to reopen the book on giving Prince his flowers as a producer, as far as him kind of doing a better job of contouring things to particular artists. I'll shut up.
Interesting.
I agree for the most part, but the thing is, like, Prince productions are so amazing. So
like Luther, so amazing.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get started with our next reading, which is on Sunday, August 5th, 1984. I'll do the reading for this section. Sex Shooter 12-inch mix, Belle St. Mark 12-inch mix, Jungle Love 12-inch mix or 7-inch edit, Let's Go Crazy 12-inch mix, Happy Birthday Mr. Christian, which is what we talked about a lot last week, with Zach Hoskins 12-inch mix, America 12-inch mix. I still can't believe America was recorded so early in 1984.
No. And just sitting on it.
Sitting. Sunset Sound, Studio 3, noon 3:15 a.m. Booked, lockout. Producer Prince, not present for the session. Artist Prince, listed, but also Apollonia 6, The Time of Sheila E. Engineers, Coke Johnson and David Leonard. This is a quote from Eric Leeds. He had a desire and maybe a need to have continuous projects that he could express himself musically, but through the persona of different people. Prince requested that every upcoming single from the 4 most recent projects I mean, this is so crazy. I mean, so we celebrated these 4 albums for Erotic City. We all should know these albums, but in case you don't, the 4 albums from 1984 are Princess Purple Rain, The Times Ice Cream Castle, Sheila E.'s and the Glamorous Life, and Apollonia 6's Apollonia 6. And he's like wanting work on all of these 12 inches at the same exact time because he's juggling so much work. It's crazy when you really think about it. And one of the reasons I'm super excited about 1994 is that he had even more going on in 1994 than he had going on in 1984, which is insane to think about, just in terms of like all the glam slam clubs. It's just like craziness. So very, very prolific our Prince was. Okay. Be Collected and had David Leonard and Coke Johnson edit and mix them for release. I would make a copy of the master according to Johnson. Then we would take that and pretty much destroy it by cutting it to little pieces. We were doing crossfades between 3 different machines. That's why we ended up blowing through so much tape down there. We went through 8 reels of 1/2 inch. We were making the extended versions. I'm going to reread one of these sentences. I would make a copy of the master. Then we would take that and pretty much destroy it by cutting it to little pieces. So I'm glad that they made a copy of the master to do all this destruction to those. And then sometimes you can hear those cuts, particularly, you know, on the time records. You know, there's like cuts that you can hear because they were doing it manually with physical tape. With like I mean, obviously they probably didn't use a razor blade per se, but it was essentially like a razor blade where they were cutting. Prince rarely brought new people in to assist on his sessions. Luckily, Coke Johnson, was a familiar face around Sunset, and they knew each other from outside the actual studio. I'm not going to read this paragraph in order to give you something to read on your own, but it's basically Coke Johnson talking about how he got connected with Prince. 3 C60 tapes were made from this session. Status. It is interesting to note that Prince was already working on the 12-inch version of America at this stage. Mind blown. It is unclear whether that was being considered as a B-side for an upcoming single release, or if he just wanted to get the longer version finished before he went on tour. He just recorded it a month earlier and probably hadn't placed it on a project yet. This long version of the song, 21 minutes and 46 seconds, was released in October 1985, over a year later. Amazing. The edited single of Let's Go Crazy, 3 minutes and 46 seconds, had been out since July 18, 1984, and peaked at #1 on the Billboard 100. A special dance mix, which is my favorite, of 7 minutes and 37 seconds was finessed on this date to capitalize on the success of the track. A mix of this track had likely been created previously, as sections of the longer version were used in the opening scene of the movie.
That's interesting, actually. I was wondering about that, because I was like, wouldn't it have been already in the movie? But yeah, okay.
Yes, the special dance mix was released on August 29th, 1984. A dance remix of the Belle of St. Mark, 7 minutes and 42 seconds, was constructed during this session and released on November 16, 1984 in the Netherlands. It was released in the United States in December 1984 and in the United Kingdom in January of 1985. So I find it interesting the order in which certain singles are released and in which countries they're released in. And to find out, that wasn't released in the UK until 85 January is really interesting to me. An edit for the 7-inch, 3 minutes and 38 seconds, may have also been fashioned on this date for release later in 1984. A dance version of Sex Shooter, 6 minutes and 52 seconds, was mixed for release on August 31st, 1984. No remix of Jungle Love has been released, so it is possible that the edited version, 3 minutes and 24 seconds, was made on this date. The single was released in September 1984. No remix of Happy Birthday, Mr. Christian was ever released, and the song was never issued as a single. So Prince may have just wanted to have a potential third single if needed. It is very possible that this longer version ended up on the Apollonia 6 album. So that's really interesting, that Happy Birthday, Mr. Christian would be considered as a single. I don't think that would have been a good idea at the time, because of the context of that song. So I'm glad that he didn't choose to have that as a single. Anything you guys want to say about these 12 inches?
Just again, reiterating just the amazing of the America 12-inch. I really would. It's been interesting to wonder what his thoughts were on that. Like, it was just like, yo, this is hot. I'm holding this, or was this going to be for the next album? Because man, for that to be done so early on, like the movie hadn't even came out yet, and just the onslaught of everything that was coming, but it was already still thinking ahead and recording and finishing stuff, and the audacity to do a 21-minute version like that would be the move. I would think, okay, I'm a superstar, I can do whatever I want, but this is done before that happens. This is like, it's 21 minutes. Like, I wonder if there was even discussions like, what is he doing? So just fascinating.
But and it still smokes to this day. Like, when you put on that 21-minute version, it's like hearing it for the first time. Go ahead, Ricky.
No, I was just gonna say, and then just to have that and then be sitting on it for over a year, says a lot. Like, I mean, kind of what both you and Mike said. Just have the audacity to kind of, the movie's slightly blowing up. You know what I'm saying? You're getting all this press, and then you sitting there thinking like, I got this jam though that I could put out right now that'll be smoking, but I'm just gonna sit on it. And then like there was no guarantee that he was gonna release it at that time. It was just something that they had done, and they were just sitting on it. I mean, it was basically a vault track at that point. In summer '84 that he pulled out. It was just a vault track, amongst the other vault tracks that they were being done at that time.
Yeah. And I love this comment from Mel Smith in the chat. I'm just tired listening to all this work, the work ethic. Yeah, it's really insane to really think about it. I mean, it's absolutely insane. All right, so next up is we want to read about the Computer Blue Jam. Ricky or Michael Dean, who wants to take that one?
I would do it, but I don't have the expanded version, so some stuff would be left out if there's some extra stuff in there.
Well, Michael, you take that one, and then Ricky, you take the next one, and I'll let you know of what the differences are between your version and our version.
Okay.
All right. All right. Computer Blue rehearsal of workout section. Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince, artist Prince and the Revolution, engineer Susan Rogers. Quote from Brown Mark: we would jam all night, and then he would be like, Susan, rotate. Prince continued to prepare the Revolution for the tour, but as they were practicing, he would experiment with new sounds, potentially for performing during the tour or for finding a new riff to expand into a song. Many of Prince's tracks are based on finding a groove and writing it. I think Prince's genius was that he was able to take a funk group and make pop songs out of it, notes Susan Rogers. I have never considered him as a great lyricist, and he's in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. I don't think he has ever approached with the same depth, the universal truth that perhaps Brian Wilson did, or John Lennon, Paul McCartney, or Stevie Wonder. I wouldn't rate him on that level. I think his genius is in record making and in rhythm, dance group. I think he is funkier than anyone I know, and he is a genius with rhythm. He has a wonderful sense of melody. All right.
During we're
gonna pause.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then
That's
I need to jump in first.
Oh boy.
I want to jump in first. Here's what I want to say to everybody in the chat to that Susan Rogers comment.
Oh boy.
Morris Hayes, Mr. Hayes. I put it when I wrote the piece on Prince going into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Morris Hayes, Mr. Hayes has a clip on YouTube. You can find it. If you can't find me, I'll give it to you because Morris Hayes said, he said, I asked Prince, I said, man, you do so many things well. What do you think you're best at? Morris Hayes asked Prince, what do you think you're best at? And Prince's answer was, what I do best is at the end of the day, I'm a songwriter, I'm a poet. Prince saw himself as a poet. Prince saw himself as a storyteller. Prince saw himself as a real lyricist. So we need to stop the cap about Prince not being a poet or a lyricist, especially when we got it on tape, we got it on document by Prince's longest tenured band member. Morris Hayes was with Prince longer than any other band member. Got it straight from the Purple Genius's mouth that Prince said, I am a poet. I'll shut up.
Boy, yeah, that bring back Jimmy the Greek memories, comments about athletes. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy the Greek was a sports commentator in, say, the 80s, and he basically said black athletes are just naturally fast or naturally just athletic, strong, and not smart enough to play certain positions and things of that nature. It's unfortunately, Susan Rogers, those comments are kind of hanging around that neighborhood, kind of with that. But like somebody said in the chat, oh yes, I like Susan. So hopefully now she thinks differently. Hopefully now, I'll take the high road and hope old girl thinks differently now. But yeah, that kind of just that kind of brings up those stereotypical attributes that people would say about entertainers of color or African American entertainers, or say what have you, in terms of artistic, say, creativity, things of that nature. So that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Didn't Prince sort of address some of these things, like in was it the interview with Miles or something? He was talking about the people that be around me don't really know my music, like like that. So I mean, he's a great engineer.
Yeah. So before we start reading, someone asked in the chat, Samantha, was Susan saying that in the context of the time and what he had written so far, or in retrospect? Now, one of the things I love about Duane's books is that he actually provides a lot of notes to what he's referencing, but for some reason, with this particular quote, there's no reference. So I don't know if anybody can do some Googles while we're here and try to figure out, like, when did Susan say this? Because I think it's important to have that context. I think that is important. All right.
And I'll just say that, I was gonna put this in the chat because I saw that question too. I'll just say this, and I've said this before. In 1978 on For You, Prince has a song about young, unexpected parents addressing and dealing with an unexpected pregnancy and dealing with it in a loving and caring way about what does it mean. It wasn't this sappy kind of thing. 1978 first album, who writes those kind of songs, right? And when you start there, with his first album, writing about unexpected pregnancy, not in some campy way, but really dealing with the emotions around what it means to be. He says, I barely make enough money for two. This ain't something romanticized. This is a young brother, like, damn, you pregnant? Okay, I love you. And what I love about that, to show the depth of Prince's songwriting, he dealt with all the real emotions around that. When you're a young cat, it ain't that you may not want the baby to come, but damn, we broke as hell. How we gonna pay for a baby? I love you, but shit, we can't pay each other. So I think when you're looking at Prince, thinking about the depth of songs, and then you go all the way through all the kind of topics and things he dealt with. Sexuality is a hell of a social political statement. The man wrote an anti-war anthem with Party Up. Of course, Morris Day laid down the basic soundtrack, but the man was thinking about anti-party, and Ronnie talked to Russia, anti-Christian, right? 1999, free. Like, if just take Purple Rain out, Prince was already head and shoulders above of most songwriters on his first 4 records, and people are still applying this really kind of slanted notion of who they want to say was a well-crafted songwriter, probably because he wasn't speaking to their very narrow and myopic way of seeing things. I'll shut up.
All right. So, Michael Dean, during this rehearsal, let's start there.
Well, you know what? I mean, I will say this to say the person that asked, was she judging Prince? You know, like where was, I guess where I know, was Susan judging Prince where he was in terms of his songwriting at that time? Well, one could argue you could look at where were Brian Wilson, Paul McCartney, and Stevie Wonder their first 4 albums. They certainly weren't where they ended up being, and they certainly weren't where I know Prince was per C. Lee, his first 4 albums. I know Stevie Wonder wasn't, because he was the Motown machine, so he wasn't talking about nothing too deep. And Paul McCartney was talking about help and holding somebody's hand. So, you know, and Brian Wilson, I know, was talking about singing and going to the beach first 4 albums. So, you know, even still, you know, that argument could be made. Prince's first 4 albums, yeah, I guess he may not have been, you know, like Stevie Wonder's like Inner Visions, but he certainly wasn't where they were their first 4 albums. Well, no, they weren't where he was his first 4 albums. I'll take that back. So they weren't where he was. So, you know, that's an argument to be made and, you know, thought to be considered, and you know, people can debate that, but I'll leave it at that.
Fuck all that. Well, I was just gonna say too, I kind of agree with you. I guess, is that what we do today when there are artists that are popular with younger people, music that we don't necessarily listen to, and then we always be, well, he ain't like Prince, or he ain't like, you know,
You have a tendency to do that. Yep. Yeah.
Maybe
people have a tendency to do that. Yeah.
She's not up on. Obviously, it's weird to say. Obviously, she is up on what he's doing. She's there, right?
Yeah.
But again, maybe she's coming from, I grew up with Paul McCartney and because I remember growing up and always, that's why I hated reading these music magazines back then, because they would always have that kind of slant to it. And I'm like, why trying to hear this is the truth. So I don't know, maybe, you know, sometimes I can see us doing that. Probably, I know I do that today with my kid. Well, Dad, you don't like such and such. No, he ain't like Anyway, let's continue. During this rehearsal, the band worked on various tracks for the tour, including riffing around the workout part of Computer Blue and additional work on the live version of Darling Nikki. It is unclear whether Eric Leeds was invited to participate in today's rehearsal, but according to Alan Leeds, it was getting more common to include him. Are we reading this part here?
No, we'll leave that out. All right. Okay. Next up is Thursday, August 9th. But before we do, I love this comment from Audria. Hi, Audria, in the chat, who is one of our What Did Prince Do This Week regulars. I see a lot of you in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. But Audria said, welcome to What Did Prince Do This Week? This is how we do it every week. That's right. So thank you for that. All right, Ricky, let's see what you got in your version for Thursday, August 9th, 1984.
Okay. But we're not gonna talk about the workout, rehearsal. Okay.
Oh no, we can't. Yeah.
I thought because that's my favorite part of one of the shows.
Go ahead. You know me.
Hold on.
I'm conscious of time. I want to make sure we get in our 90 minutes because we normally have our 2 hours. Take it away.
I was gonna say what I want to talk about.
I was gonna say, look, that's one of the highlights of the live show from Purple Rain, man. You know, like I know they're hitting extra part in Computer Blue when say they do the little workout part, man, because that vamp that they jam on is crucial. Like, I mean, you know, it is definitely was one of those moments where you kind of wonder, like, man, I wish they would have put that on the album. You know, along with the little hallway conversation piece. But yeah, I enjoyed the workout portion. I mean, you know, I'm glad they worked that in, even though I know, like Purple Rain was like, kind of like rehashed night after night, show after show. That part is one of my favorite parts because you really see the strength of the revolution on that part. Like you could tell they put their foot in that one, and they were on it.
Yeah, I mean, before you start reading, so we were reading about the recording of Computer Blue and how long it took to create Computer Blue and how he kept cutting. That's the reason why we cut
We couldn't.
on the fans, because he kept cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting after he had worked on Computer Blue for days. I think he worked on it for like 10 days. And, normally he just records a song in one day and that's it. But he really labored over Computer Blue. But then he started cutting it down, 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 down. And we really didn't get that version until the deluxe version of Purple Rain came out post Prince, which is like really crazy to think about. I wonder why he never released that as a 12-inch. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been a great 12-inch. I don't know if they would have done a video for it, but it definitely would have been a great 12-inch, or man, at least a B-side to something, with that mix in it.
Yeah,
I definitely could have taken that.
Does anybody know? Because I know she alluded to it, but does Wendy ever specifically discuss in rehearsals about the part where she doing they do the mimicking of the event? Does Wendy ever talk about ever talk about like how the
But he
idea?
dressed that up, didn't he?
Yeah,
He dressed that up, didn't he?
I was trying to tread lightly. I was trying to tread lightly, but I was wondering because I always wondered about you think about those kind of things, because remember we got into the discussion about Prince as feminist, and one of the things we always say that if Prince asks a woman to put on bikinis and walk around in high heels, he's not asking her to do something that he himself hasn't done.
Yeah.
And so I often wonder about, right, how that was discussed, how she thought about it, what was that discussion, right? And I mean merely from like an artistic point, right? Of course, she could probably get into how she felt about it, cool, not cool about it, but I just always wondered about how that conversation went as far as, okay, Wendy, we're going to do this at this point. And, in this kind of monotone way. And what was Wendy's reaction like? Okay. So anyway, that's it.
Well, I'm pretty sure Prince asking some woman to walk around and say bikinis is different than like, Freddie Jackson or somebody.
Why Prince Freddie?
I'm saying? I'm sure they would have been more willing to do that than say Freddie Jackson or somebody. So, but
Lord.
But like that's just me.
Salute to Freddie Jackson. I'm confused.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know I'm saying what I'm saying is that, I mean, like C. Lee said, like he's not gonna ask you to do something that he himself like hasn't done. So if he's asking you to take a risk, or like what would be a risk, I know for you, you have to understand that he's gonna be taking a bigger risk at some point doing something else. So I'm saying just as risk taking. So like you're not gonna be out on that ledge by yourself. He's gonna be out on that ledge with you.
For sure. What did Prince say to Chris Rock about Bad? He said, "You ain't gonna be saying I ain't gonna be saying." I don't know if the rules might be a little different when it comes to
yeah. So.
But you know what? To that point, Brother Dean, I also took that as like Prince being aware of the persona, right? And one thing we know, Prince was a jokester. Prince could play the dozens with anybody. And the thing about when you are a jokester and can play the dozens, you can see the jokes coming. So I'm sure Prince took one look at that line and was like, oh, hell no, play the jokes. Prince was already writing the jokes in his own head. So Prince like, if I'm writing the jokes in my head, you better well believe that everybody is going to be writing these jokes too. So anyway.
All right, Ricky, on to Purple Rain edit, Thursday, 9th, 1984.
All right. Hey, my grandparents' wedding anniversary, August 9th. All right. Purple Rain edit. unknown studio, probably Sunset Sounds, your producer Prince, artist Prince and Revolution, engineer David Z, probably. Do you want me to read the quote?
Yes.
You couldn't get radio play as a Black artist on mainstream rock radio in America. Matt Fink. That was clearly a quote from the mid-'80s, early '80s. With the incredible success of the album and movie, multiple singles from Purple Rain from the Purple Rain soundtrack album were prepared for an upcoming release. In retrospect, Purple Rain was an obvious choice for a single, but it wouldn't be easy to convince rock and roll radio stations to play a 7-minute track from a Black artist known for funk music. So the song was edited. With a successful movie and soundtrack raising awareness of Prince, Purple Rain ended up being a perfect crossover success for him. The song Purple Rain for me was his masterpiece in terms of marrying commerciality and emotion, said Dej Dickerson. It's one of those songs that you remember where you were the first time you heard it, causes your endorphins and the serotonin to be released in your brain. It was a real step forward for him in terms of his evolution as a commercial artist, but yet a distinct artist. You know that it's him, but at the same time, it's a classic song. You're here 20 years from now, and it will still be classic. This wasn't the first time this. We go discuss something when we pause or keep going.
Go ahead.
Okay. This wasn't the first time the song had been edited. One verse that referenced buying someone's love had been eliminated before the movie was shot because it stood out from the rest of the track. The funny thing, explained Lisa Coleman, is that the third verse that he took out, when you listen to it, you don't understand what the song is about, but you understand that that verse doesn't fit. Multiple versions of Purple Rain were created, including an edit, 4 minutes, 2 seconds, radio edit, 4 minutes, 19 seconds, 7-inch edit, 4 minutes, 30 seconds, long radio edit, 5 minutes, 37 seconds, and a long version, 7 minutes, 5 seconds. These were also released in some form when the single hit the market, and the track peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 100. That's interesting. That third verse was scrapped out. It would have been, I know we could hear it now on the 83. In the third verse on the 83 show from First Avenue. I know the benefit concert.
That was the first time I heard that third verse. And when I first heard it, watching that bootleg, first thing I said to myself was, yeah, I'm glad that was removed because it didn't make sense. It didn't, like when you hear it after, because we had lived with that song and that album for so long, that that's one of the very first things I clearly went like, yeah, good editing, Prince, good editing on that one. Because I could kind of see where he was going with it, like saying, hey, these physical things, because he said, I don't think I want your money. Something to that effect was the line. So I could see what he was thinking about, hey, I don't want you for these physical things, but it just was like a sore thumb. So yeah, I'm like y'all, like hearing it on that bootleg, I was like, yeah, good edit job there. I'll shut up.
I have a question for the group. How do you guys feel about Prince in terms of rating his editing, in terms of being able to, at these moments of high creativity, being able to pick and choose what he's going to release, what he's going to keep? Because as an artist, sometimes it's hard because you think everything, man, you're doing is fire, and you may know it's fire, but it takes a lot to say, I'm not going to put this 21 version out, this 21-minute version out of this song, even though it cranks. I'm just going to sit on it, but I'm going to put this out, or I'm going to take this portion of this song out and not include it, even though it may be fire. I'm going to take it out and granted, with his editing, he had some hits and misses, but how would you rate his hits and misses at this period in terms of choosing to release certain things and not choosing to release certain things versus one versus the other?
I would go ahead.
I'm going to make a controversial statement, but I mean, this is my personal opinion. Obviously, anyone can disagree with me. I think he was a better editor in 1984 than he was in 1994.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
That's my personal opinion.
I agree.
And also, I will say, and I'm sure people will disagree with me, that he just was on fire in terms of his songwriting. And also, he was so prolific. I think this is the 80s was when he was the most prolific when it comes to just songwriting. Like, think about the week we're going to talk about next week. That is insane to think about. Like, back to back to back to back. Like, fire after fire after fire after fire. Crazy. So that's my personal opinion. I think that another adjacent conversation is how good was he at picking singles. And I know that he sometimes battled with Warner Brothers. So I don't know, like, if he made all the single decisions or if some of those decisions was driven by Warner Brothers. But I think that's also another conversation, because I really don't think that Happy Birthday, Mr. Christian shouldn't have been a single. So I don't know if that's like maybe Prince wanted it to be a single and Warner Brothers was like, hold up, we don't want Happy Birthday to be a
we don't want Tipper Gore coming any more than she already is. Come on, player.
Yeah. Or did Prince make the decision that he didn't want to have Happy Birthday as a single? I don't know. It would be interesting to have that level of detail, but I don't know. I'm sorry, Celie, I went off.
No, I agree with you. I think that, remember when he was promoting Rave, he said when he was promoting Rave, because he was going by the symbol, he said that Prince was a better editor. And so when he says when he's promoting Rave, Prince was a better editor, he's obviously referring to himself in the past tense. He's referring to who he was in the past. And I would say that what goes with being a good editor is where your finger is on the pulse of the culture. So I think that, to your point, Prof. Duff, about Prince not being as good of an editor, I don't know how much it is about Prince being as good an editor as it was Prince having his pulse on the finger of the culture at one point, where he's not having his finger on the pulse at another point. And so I think that happens with everybody. I think there's also commercial editing versus artistic editing, right? Right. And I think that Prince could be good at both. Prince could be really great at commercial editing, but he could also be kind of bad at commercial editing. He could be really good at artistic editing. And then when you add, say, picking singles. So there's a song that all of us love. There's a song that when I mention this, people in the chat are gonna love and say, we love this song. But if we're being realistic about it, Prince got his way, and that song killed the momentum of the album. Prince was dead set on releasing If I Was Your Girlfriend. We all love If I Was Your Girlfriend. People often talk about that as one of their favorite Prince cuts. But in real time, that single killed the album. Why? Homophobia is real, and also just people being stupid is real. Most people did not understand the lyrical depth of If I Was Your Girlfriend. Most people didn't understand that it was a song written from a heterosexual male perspective to a female saying, I want to be as close to you as your girlfriends, as your female friends. Most people didn't get it. So in that, Prince, and I agree, Rhonda, and that's why TLC's cover is so dumb, because they didn't change the lyrics. But I often wonder if they didn't change the lyrics, one, because they didn't understand the song, or because they were afraid to be as bold as Prince. I wish somebody would ask TLC that question. Why didn't y'all change the lyrics? So I think a lot of that has to do with us understanding when Prince's thumb was on the pulse. And I think that sometimes he was dead on, and I do mean to be using a pun there. He was dead on it. And then sometimes his finger wasn't on the pulse, and that's where you either got edits that didn't work or releases that didn't work. I'll shut up.
Ooh, can I add to this? I think too, and this is going back to the song Purple Rain. I think Prince was a great editor, and I think he only had to be an editor of his work because of the constraints of how the music was being released and packaged. I didn't have a problem with the edits of these songs back then, when the songs, because I had no idea they were edited anyway. They were just great songs to me. When you hear them live, or you hear the 12-inch, and you realize, wow, there was more to this than there was. When you get to these later albums, maybe from Purple Rain on, I think he falls into, hey, this package product has to be constrained within this allotment of time, and this is the way it's going to sell more units. So they have to edit his songs down from what they are recorded as. And that's when we start to see these songs fading on the albums, which I hated. You know, Another Lover, for example, like it was just getting good. And I was like, oh, and then they fading it out. And you know that, well, on the other albums, 1999, them songs was gone. I mean, you got to hear the whole jams. The Time albums, you got to hear the whole jams. They didn't have those constraints. And I think a lot of his editing is just due to, I don't know if it's because now you're a superstar, you can't have these long-ranging 7-minute songs. That's not the way that the marketplace is going. Chop it down. But I think personally what he recorded was dope. I just think that he had to change because of the times were changing. And then in terms of like Purple Rain, to me, as great as I think that song is cool and stuff, at the time, I didn't really like that song when it first came out. To me, it felt like, again, he's doing something only because somebody said in the book, they ain't gonna play a black person singing this type of music, or maybe they will, and this is the pathway to become a superstar crossover. So you have to change your style up to get the mainstream. I wonder if he came out today's world, where that's not a question really. Like, you don't see black artists trying to go pop or change their style. They done came to us, right? That all of them people done fought that battle. So you don't have to compromise your style or change to, oh, this is what's going to get me over a crossover. And I wish Prince didn't have to do that at that point. It would have been, I think it would have been a very different reception if he didn't have to be in a world where there is the black artist tag and the white. If they would have just been like, yo, just do you, I don't even think the song Purple Rain would have even been that big. Because I don't think his real fans really, excuse my language, even fuck with that song when it first came out. I remember going to see the movie, and when that song came on, it was quiet as hell. It was like, okay, is this over? Cool. And then when they come back to the joints, you know, I Would Die For You, and that's what it left me on. That's why. But I didn't like Purple Rain at the time. I love it now. But again, I have lived through being inundated with it, and I understand that that is a part of his legacy. That's the biggest thing. But I don't think that's his best song. It's his trademark song, but I think it's only a trademark song because of the time it came out, and artists had to do stuff. Well, he felt like he had to do that to become a superstar. But I think if you eliminated that, I don't really think the focus would have been that song personally. So that's my thoughts on it. And just to say, I think he's a brilliant editor. I think he did everything on purpose. Going to If I Was Your Girlfriend, the only pushback I would say, if he'd have did a video for that, or if they would have put out the version that was in Sign of the Times movie, if that was the video, I think it'd be a totally different story. And I think that song would have been, I don't have to change up to do nothing. Our culture is pop culture. Like, that is the dope shit. That was the next level. But of course, the times of the day might not be up on it yet. But I think that was a brilliant song, Sign of the Times. If that would have had a video, it'd have been bananas. But there wasn't no video. He didn't, I mean, in terms of him being in the video and all that, he did a video for You Got the Look, which to me at the time was not the song I was playing on that album, but it's the song that had the video. It was probably considered a pop song. He had the white lady in it. So I understand his move. He was brilliant at making moves to, get to the mainstream, but I wish he didn't have to do all that. And as the words of a great man named Seeley, I'll shut up.
Speaking of Prince's great editing, we are celebrating Come 30, and I must applaud him on not editing the Come song down, because they let that jam play out, and it gets better as the song goes on. So I would hate to have to imagine what that song would have sounded like had they edited down certain parts of it. So just my little plug for the plug for the weekend on the editing.
But I do want to iterate something that Michael Dean said, and all of us kind of know this, but there might be people who are new to Prince or part of the next power generation. Michael Dean said something really important, and I just want to add one more thing that we all know. When we went to the CD format, that's when more songs could be added to an album project. Before CDs, I loved, particularly with the time, that Prince kind of followed the Ohio Players format of having 3 songs per side, where you could just groove out, vamp out. Those were the days. Amazing. And then also what I love that Prince did was with the 12 inches. You know, if he couldn't give you the full thing on the album, he would give it to you on the 12 inches. And that's the reason why I'm still like, if I could talk to Prince, one of the questions I would have asked him was, why didn't you give us a computer blue 12-inch back then? Like, really, dude? Like, it's just like he sat on that brilliant take, you know, the hallway version that we all love forever, pretty much, because it only came out post Prince. So I'm sure there are lots of other songs that we don't even know about that have like these amazing long versions. And I just think it's a travesty that, again, Michael, like you said, he kind of had to go with the times, and songs are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. That's actually one of the issues I have. For those of you on What Did Prince Do This Week, like I'm absolutely in love with Willow's If Pathogen. That album is so brilliant, but some of the songs are so darn short. And I was like, wish I could put this on loop, or wish this was longer, or I wish 12 inches were a thing again. Because I really miss just being able to rock out to a song. Now we have one more reading, and then we have to do our Harlem Renaissance part of What Did Prince Do This Week, where we talk about what's going on in music in general, as well as in the purple world. So who wants to read our final Misunderstood? I can take it if nobody wants to.
Oh, what, the Computer Blue Jam?
No, Friday, August 10th. I'll take it.
I'm
Oh,
stuck on computer.
Oops, I'm sorry. I'm 4 days back. My bad. Sorry.
Okay, I'll do
My
it.
bad.
All right, Friday, August 10th, 1984, Misunderstood, basic tracking, Prince's vocals, Flying Cloud Drive, Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, producer Prince, artist of family, engineer Susan Rogers, assumed. Oh, wait, speaking of Susan Rogers, and I love Duane, so Duane did put a reference for that Susan Rogers quote. It's just that I didn't see it. So that quote we read earlier was from an interview by Alan Freed for Uptown Magazine and Pure Nielsen, Minneapolis, Minnesota, March 25th, 1995. So that's where that quote is from, just FYI. But let me get back because I don't want to start nothing. Okay, this is Susanna. This one song, Misunderstood, that I did for him was supposed to be on that first family record. I just could not have him put it on the record. I hate the effing song. And that's not what she said. Prince was still adding new songs to the family album. So far, they'd all been tracks that would eventually contain Paul Peterson's lead vocals. So today he recorded Misunderstood, a song that would favor Susanna Melvoin. Misunderstood was a pop song that could have been offered to any of his proteges and seemed completely out of place when placed next to the other numbers planned for this project. True that, Duane. I totally agree with this statement. The basic tracks were recorded at the warehouse on this date, including Prince's vocals. Soon afterward, on an undocumented date, Prince brought the tape with him to Los Angeles to record Melvoin's vocals. We had the multi-track out as Sunset Sound in Los Angeles. So recall Susan Rogers. I'm not going to read that paragraph, so you have something to read, and we're running out of time. Melvoin explains how she confronted Prince. He flew out to LA, came to the studio, and I said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And we went out to the courtyard, and I said, "I don't really feel great about telling you this, but I can't do this song. I can't live with it. I'm just terrible on it. I couldn't stand my vocal. It was too contrived, and I can't have you put this on the record." And he said, "Okay." He said, "We'll work on it for the next record. I want you to sing more leads on the next record anyway." Melvoin was correct. The song seemed more like an outtake from Vanity 6 than a new sound Prince was debuting with the family. I think we all got a taste of that song. Every single one of us recalls Joe Jones, and it was slated to be on my record too. I think something was happening because psychologically, the relationships that were going on with Prince interpersonally would affect the song. If he gave you a song, you were like, really? Is this what you think a woman should be singing about at this point? I even thought he had Wendy sing on it at one point because I remember there was a track at the beginning where it was her voice. Status, Misunderstood, 5 minutes, 23 seconds, was offered to several other artists, but it remains unreleased. It is possible that Yes, aka Lisa, was originally tracked on this day instead of August 5th. So you can do your Googles, as Michael Dean says, if you haven't heard Misunderstood. And I think Duane is spot on. And I don't know what Prince was thinking. It didn't fit the family's record, period.
I love the
would-
song.
Sometimes
But do you think it fits on the family's record?
No, not necessarily, but
I think sometimes as artists, you have something that you like and you don't know what to do with it, but you like it. So you keep pushing it, even though everybody else tells you it ain't working. I had a short story that I couldn't get published for 2 years because everybody kept telling me there was a one paragraph in the middle of that short story that was killing the whole damn story. But I love that paragraph, Brother D, Brother Wyatt. I was committed to that damn paragraph. And for 2 years, everybody kept telling me that paragraph is killing that short story. After 2 years, I took that one paragraph out the short story and it got published the next damn week. So sometimes I think that we're misunderstood. Prince had a song, he liked the song, he kept pushing it on people, he just couldn't find the fit. And sometimes that just happens. You fall in love with some ish you create, and everybody else is telling you like, hell no, not over here. I'll shut up.
Well, it's like, let me use a basketball reference. Shout out to the Team USA on their win the other day. Like every shot Steph Curry takes is not going in.
Right.
Like, every shot he takes is not gonna be, like the game winner, the crowd getter, and Prince took some shots with certain songs where, certain songs were hits, certain songs were misses. Some worked, some didn't. This may have just been one of those songs where he probably thought, "Ooh, I got off a good shot." And then like to see Leigh's point, they were just like, "Nah, we ain't feeling this one right here." And it may have, I know it said that he tried it with some other people, and that's, clearly he felt some kind of way about it because they tried to get it, he kept trying to get it pushed out there. Would it may have worked on the family's album? Probably not the album. A B-side maybe. Who's say to say, like Michael Dean said, so like in real time, had it come out as a B-side to High Fashion or Mutiny or something, we probably be thinking differently about the song right now. It's like, oh yeah, that song was this. So
it sounds like another song too. Isn't some of it's the way it starts it's a sound he uses in a different song too. Just can't.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
I want to hear from Michael about what do you like about the song? Because it seems like do you like it or do you love it?
I love it.
Okay, talk to me.
Now, well, so when I first heard it, I don't think I knew that it was Susanna singing it. Specifically, I remember hearing it was on the bootleg studio nights for those who remember that back in the day. But I just love the instrumentation. I can hear now that I'm a woman, and just the way it goes into this extended sort of jam. He's going off to me like it's jamming to me. I just think the song is dope, and it reminds me of, I don't know if it's a Purple Rain era song or something. It has the same.
Mountains. Is it Mountains for you?
I don't. That's not coming to my mind. But I just felt like when I heard it again, when I heard it at the time, I was like, "Oh, whoa, this has to be from this time period." Because it just. But I was like, I never heard this, and when I first heard it, I thought I could have seen this being like a little jam. Like, it's poppy, but it still has. You know who I think could have done this now? I could have seen Sheila E. doing this song.
Oh.
Could have seen this being on the Sheila album. Matter
Dun,
of fact, now
dun,
I
dun.
see that, But
Interesting.
I was puzzled when I heard people didn't like it. I was like, but I'd be liking some other shit. So I don't know. Maybe it was just like.
I love the Misunderstood Love. I'm one of those people who I don't like it, but I want to read Chris's comments. Chris Bournet, who says, Misunderstood reminds me of Jealous Girl. Bonnie Raitt didn't want to sing that one either.
And then I would add too, what year was this? Are we reading? This is 80.
84.
84?
84 Prince, I don't question. That's just me. Like,
Hey, that is a
he's
mic drop.
knocking them out the park. Maybe the singers don't understand or feel it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
1984 Prince, it would have. I think it would have been something. That's why he was probably on it so hard. And they just wouldn't where he was at. But to me, like, yeah, it would have.
You know, and then you know, like, that's a debatable point there too, because you have said well-known superstar blowing up saying, "Hey, I got this hit." You got session singer of your sister sister of your guitarist, girlfriend of your keyboard player. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Saying to you, "Hey, I don't want to sing this. Who has a better track record? Like, who knows? Like who has their finger on the pulse right now? You know, and you know, could have been, like one of those moments where he conceded, like, okay, I'm not gonna do it, but probably had he done a Suge Knight thing, no, we singing this. It's coming out. This is a hit. This is gonna be a hit, and had it done, kind of work, because like you said, like, this is 84 Prince. It's popish. It's got the sound of the times and all those type things. You know what I'm saying? We'll never know. It may have worked. It could have flown. It could have flown with, the family. It could have flown with, Sheila probably doing it like at that time. But so we never, but again, I'm looking at it like, okay, said established artist versus unknown session singer. You know what I'm saying? Like, who you gonna go with?
Who do you trust?
I love the comment from Chris Burnett, another Chris Burnett. Misunderstood is a bit in the vein of Oliver's House, but it reminds me more of a teeny bopper song for a group like the Jets.
Yeah.
Do you disagree? Or
yeah, I guess I could see it on the Sheila album. But the Jets, that would have been kind of
Minneapolis, you know what I'm saying? David Z.
Sexy, but not dirty. We got enough.
And I love Rhonda Nicole's comment as well. I appreciate that he respected Susanna's objection. The worst thing would have been for the song to hit, and she's not comfortable with it, but now has to perform it ad nauseum. So, yes. All right. So we have to wrap it up because we're got 12 minutes and we still need to do the poll and on all sorts of jazz. So let me go back to sharing my screen and let me make sure I can see the chat. It's still there. Okay. So this up until this point in 1984, we're in mid-August, Prince has written 43 songs in 1984 alone up until August. We're not even at the end of the year. And in addition to that, he has visited the studio 81 times. And there's something called Purple Rain, the movie, where he had to do a lot of stuff around that. So just think about that. These are all the songs that were tracked. And I would read them if we had time for the new people, but I don't. But I will point out some of them. He wrote 17 Days in 1984, Sugar Walls in 1984, Take Me With You, Some Kind of Lover, Manic Monday, Father Song, Pop Life was written in February of 1984. Love and Sex, the one that I like on the Purple Rain Deluxe, was written in February. When Doves Cry in March. Paisley Park was written, but it's the instrumental, not the one we know. Yes. Erotic City, 84. Roadhouse Garden, Now Destiny. Maserati, also known as Susanna's Pajamas, 100 Miles Per Hour. Mutiny, High Fashion, Desire, Nothing Compares to You, America, and all the things that we talked about this particular week. All right, so we're not going to go through this because of time. Let's get to the music break. I've been really pushing going to see Corey Henry live if you can. I think it's really, really important to do so. He's an amazing performer. Again, real music by real musicians. If you haven't had an opportunity to experience him live, I highly recommend it. You will feel so much better after it. If you're down and you need some uplift, go see a Corey Henry show. It is amazing. So tonight, Corey is going to be in San Jose, California. And for all my ATLians, who I have a lot of ATLians in the What Did Prince Do This Week regular posse, he's coming to Atlanta on the 21st. So I highly recommend that you do that. And then Liegh sent me, for people who are in the New York City area, Quad Cinemas is showing a documentary about Electric Lady Studios, the Jimi Hendrix vision. So that's going on in New York. And I forgot to add, also at the Film Forum, they're going to start a blaxploitation film run with the one and only Pam Grier. There's going to be lots and lots of Pam Grier films. So if you want to see that with an audience, you want to do that, and I'll add it to next week's slideshow. I'm really excited that Andre 3000 is performing New Blue Sun at the Jazz Cafe in the UK. So we had our International Lovers panel at the beginning of the day. Highly recommend that you see Andre 3000 and support him with his incredible New Blue Sun project. And really quickly, in the Purple World, I already mentioned this, but Paisley Park is doing an official come event, a listening party, which I'm super, super excited about. I'm so happy that they're doing this to give more love and respect and just get people to know that Come is a really important album, because it is so, well, I mean, some of the songs are just incredible and they should not be overlooked. So I'm very happy that they're doing this. Also on the same night, August 16th, is Andrea Swenson's Deeper Blues with Cornbread, Jimmy Jam, who is Cornbread's son, and friends. So this should be amazing if you're in Minneapolis. If you go, please report back. And if you go to the Come listening party, please report back. That would be really amazing. And then Moore's Day and the Time, as well as New Power Generation, are going to be at Paisley Park as well for a charity event on August 17th. So a lot is happening in Minneapolis for 16th, 17th, and at Paisley Park in particular. So I think this is amazing that they're continuing to offer programming at Paisley Park. So every week we have an accompanying playlist on YouTube. You just go to my YouTube channel, which is at Polished Solid. And I compile playlists for songs that we talk about. And I see, I don't have Misunderstood here, so I'm going to make sure I add that to the playlist. And next week, we will be reading pages 382 to 391. I've already talked about what we're going to be talking about, but in case you join us late, next week, we're going to be talking about the live performance at First Avenue on the 14th. And Prince wrote next week, She's Always in My Hair, Around the World in a Day, Dance Electric, and Screams of Passion. Just crazy, 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 crazy to think about. And we're not finished, because we have our poll for this session. And let me post it. And remember that the poll is going to launch in a different window. It just kind of pops up. And our question for this session is, what song from Come was not included in the Beautiful Experience special? The 4 choices are Pheromone, Papa, Race, and Let It Go. So let's see where the...
Why the host and panelists can't vote? That ain't right.
It's like those contests of employees and associates.
There you go. You're right. Hey, why they voting? Can I give a shout out to the chat?
Yes, of course.
Because I want to say this. We've always talked about this, that in all the symposiums that we've done online, the chat is as big as a star. I think Brother Turnbull was the first one that the chat is as big as a star. But particularly on What Did Prince Do This Week, I want to give props to the regulars. There are a lot of regular folks who are here every Saturday. They make What Did Prince Do This Week a joy. So if you are new, if this is your first What Did Prince Do, and I need y'all to understand, whoever said that, Prof does said that, this is how we get down there Saturday. You ain't got to come in here agreeing. You ain't got to come in here saying what somebody else saying. It gets hot and heavy in the chat. But as Prof does said, and as I say all the time, there are too many of you guys who have too much information for other people who don't know a damn thing about Prince to be telling the story of Prince. That's why the chat is so important. That's why these symposiums are so important. That's why what you guys are doing in the chat and around the world with all the different platforms. So for you guys who are in the chat, particularly you guys who come to What Did Prince Do This Week every Saturday. So if this is your first time, come hang out, come get in the chat, because the chat is just as important. And hey, I love being corrected because I want to get this stuff right. So I just want to thank y'all and give y'all a shout out for that. I'll shut up.
That is right. That is right. Yes, we want to get it right. So point out any mistakes, any and all mistakes. Okay, I just ended the poll. Thank you for those of you who participated. And it is tied between Pheromone, Papa, Race, between Papa and Let It Go. Which one was it?
I know.
Let it go. Oh, I'm sorry. What am I supposed to say?
That's okay. No, Let It Go, right?
Sorry, my bad.
I will say the beautiful experience sort of ruined my expectation for the Come album.
Did it?
Talk about that.
Elaborate, brother.
Because that came, I had received that before that album came out, and I wore that out. Like I was playing that heavy. All those songs are on there. Songs that aren't on the album are on there, like Acknowledge Me and all that. So I was like, oh, he about to drop the heat of albums. You know, I've said this many stories before. I was so excited about the Gold Experience that I had made this whole 30-minute program on public access that was spotlighting parts of that, to the point where shout out to Karen Liegh, I think she used to work with Prince, called me on my job and was like, no, you ain't putting that out. Like, but I was so hyped. So when I finally got the album, I was kind of bummed just because I was like, where is such and such? And then no fault of Prince, the songs were already played out. Like I had already been jamming those so hard. So I was just like, man, something's going on here. Like, what? So when I think of Come, it just kind of has that. I know there was a lot that we didn't get at the time, and in real time, I was just kind of disappointed. But the album is fire.
Brother Dean, I'll just say this as a teaser. You are teeing up my presentation for tomorrow. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know what?
It's right down the pipe for what I'm gonna be discussing come tomorrow. So I shut up.
You know, as we celebrate Come, I don't want to, I'd be remiss if we didn't mention 1-800 New Funk. Y'all trying to, you know what I'm saying, sleep on my gym. It came out the same day. Both of them came out the same day. I don't know if y'all remember that real time.
I actually didn't remember that. Thank you for that, Ricky.
Yeah. Both came out the same day. And I remember, if I remember correctly, Prince was kind of I know the media that he had been doing, he was talking about one versus the other.
Yeah. He had an ad out, right? Didn't he have an ad kind of shaded the other one? Yeah,
and he was saying like, he was kind of shading on Come, but he was kind of bigging up 1-800 New Funk. And so there are some gems on 1-800 New Funk. And as we celebrate one, let's celebrate both. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because we did get double the dose of like new music from him.
All right. So thank you so much, Michael Dean. You're still going to take us out, but I just got to say a couple more things. Thank you so much, Ricky, for joining us, as well as Liegh. All right. So what I'm going to say before Michael Dean takes us out is I can't wait for the next session, not because I'm on it, but because my brothers will be, which are Elliot H. Powell, who is moderating this time. So it's going to get crazy with some of the questions, I'm sure. But Anil Dash, as well as Miles Marshall Lewis, Zaire Ali, and one music snob, Arthur Turnbull. So it's going to be an amazing conversation. We're going to get that started at 2:00 on the dot Eastern time. So we're going to break for 30 minutes. So go take, a bio break, move your body, drink some water, eat some food, and do some jumping jacks, and be ready for an amazing conversation. We are basically halfway through our day today. So I can't believe we're already halfway through. So it's going to go by super fast. All right, Michael Dean, take us out.
All right. And let me just say salute to all of the panelists and presenters that are coming up today. It's tomorrow too, or just
Yep.
when? So you guys are, I'm going to sit home and watch it as a fan. So I can't wait to see what everybody's got cooking. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready for the next one. So I'm about to go make my grits, eggs, and bacon. I'm going to sit down on my couch and we're going to pop this on the TV. I'm ready. So y'all gonna do a good show. But with that said, thank you to Celie, Ricky, author who you can't see was just off screen, for being a part of this. Everybody in the chat, all my Saturday family that shows up every Saturday. I love that y'all in here. And thank you to D'Angela. With that said, work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.